Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of FranFunnel Live. Today, I want to talk a little bit about calendaring tools. We've been getting a lot of requests recently at FranFunnel to include calendaring links in introductory text messages. And I want to talk a little bit about why we haven't exactly seen some success there. But first of all, for those of you who don't know what the calendaring tools are, companies like Calendly or HubSpot has it now, Acuity, basically are able to provide a link for you so that when you send someone an email or some sort of message that they can schedule time themselves. Oftentimes you'll see this in someone's signature. You'll see something like book time with me, or instead of exchanging 4 emails back and forth, it's like, hey, let's pick some time. Ultimately, we see this fail pretty much across the board, including a link like this in an introductory text message. So let's take a look at why that might be the case. So here's an example of a message that you may want to send if you were going to engage in this process, right? Jim, this is Mike from Frantastic. Let's find a time to talk. Click here to pick a time, and then the Calendly link located there. A few things that are ultimately going to cause this to fail. Number one, you don't actually know the person, right? We're using automated text messaging as the first line of communication after lead forms are filled out. This is something that just, you can't forget. You can't overvalue to think about. We're trying to start a relationship, and this is ultimately a fairly cold way to do that. The second thing is people don't really share links via text. You probably every once in a while, if you go look at the text that you send your friends or family, you'd see a couple links here and there, but it's not the primary way that people are using text messaging. Text messaging is generally short messages back and forth to discuss some sort of topic, oftentimes something like logistics or whatever it may be. And the final thing is this really is and does look spammy, right? So if instead it said something like, hey Jim, this is some consulate from Nigeria, I have your money, just click here to claim it, you wouldn't be too surprised and you wouldn't click it because you'd be like, oh, this is exactly the kind of thing that people would send from a spam perspective. Ultimately, we're using text messages to start and warm up relationships. So if the concept of spam even enters someone's mind remotely, then we have failed, right? And that's ultimately why we see messages like this performing incredibly poorly as far as an engagement rate perspective. Just to give you an idea of what may work, I have kind of one of our stock messages that we would recommend to somebody. So, hi Lisa, this is Lou from Fran Dreams. I want to speak becoming a franchisee. What time works for you tomorrow? So you can imagine a message like this being sent overnight, perhaps while Lisa is not around. But a couple things. We're telling why we want to have this conversation. I want to speak about becoming a franchisee, so we're alluding to why the lead form may have been filled out to begin with. And then ultimately, what time works for you tomorrow allows people to respond in the way that people always respond when they're using text messaging. 4 p.m., oh, tomorrow's not good for me, why don't we do the next day, let's talk at 2. That is kind of how people are using their phone these days. And we want to kind of set them up for a layup, a softball, as opposed to kind of making it difficult for them to do the next thing. So compared to the message I just showed you, a message like this is going to have 5 times the type of engagement with it. Just important to keep in mind when you're talking about intro text messages and the types of messages you're going to use. Warmth, be normal, right? The reason text messaging is so successful is because people do it in their personal lives. Think about what you would want your friends to text you. And ultimately, you're going to be pretty happy with the type of results that you get. If you have any questions about how we use text messaging and other forms of marketing to help you get more out of your leads, you know where to find us here at FranFunnel, and have a great day.